Once an empire that possessed the largest territory in human history, along with a legendary army that has left its mark in the annals of history. They are often known for the famous saying, "Wherever the Mongol horse treads, grass does not grow." Yes, that is what people refer to as the Mongol Empire. However, if Genghis Khan were to look at his descendants in later years, he would probably sigh. In the 20th century, Mongolia found itself caught between two giants, the Soviet Union and China. They constantly faced the danger of being swallowed up and assimilated by China. Yet somehow, the descendants of Genghis Khan managed to find ways to escape this dire situation. So how did they manage to break free from China's grasp? And how did China attempt to assimilate them? Let's find out in today's V. China's northern peril is the land that is now an icy expanse referred to as Mongolia. Throughout a history spanning 1,000 years, from the first emperor Qin Shi Huang to the last sovereigns, the Qing dynasty, China has always been menaced by the northern tribes. During the Han dynasty, the Xiongnu posed a threat. The Han Empire barely survived the Xianbei invasion. In the Jin dynasty, the five barbarians wreaked havoc. Later, during the Tang dynasty, the An Lushan rebellion unfolded and the Song dynasty faced its own challenges. The Liao and Jin dynasties followed, ultimately surrendering to the Mongol Empire. Then came the fall of the Ming dynasty. China was ruled by the Manchu for nearly 300 years. But times are ever-changing. The Qing dynasty managed to incorporate Mongolian territory before its collapse. It wasn't until 1911, 220 years later, when the Qing dynasty fell to the Xinhai Revolution, that Mongolia officially declared its independence. However, as the Qing era ended, the Republican era dawned, and subsequently, the Mao era. Throughout these periods, China has consistently upheld an expansionist stance. Despite nearly 3 centuries of Manchu rule, Han culture remained intact without assimilation. And instead, it was the Manchu culture that underwent changes. Mongolia was regarded as an inseparable part of China's territory, an unyielding claim. Fortunately for Mongolia, China faced internal turmoil, fragmented into numerous warlords and regional leaders, constantly clashing. After the Xinhai Revolution, a societal upheaval followed, with bigger fish preying on the smaller. Factions emerged, with foreign nations backing them with arms and finances. The 4 influential countries at that time, United States, United Kingdom, Japan, and the Soviet Union, chose sides to supply weapons for their preferred groups to conquer as much as possible. Naturally, they held sway over the region's economy. Beyond the Chinese Communist Party and a few warlords, the Soviet Union also extended its influence southward, particularly towards Mongolia, providing a temporary sanctuary. During this time, China was divided into 13 warlord factions that incessantly clashed. The situation saw a semblance of stability around 1928, when Chiang Kai-shek captured Beijing, becoming the legitimate representative of China in international affairs. At this juncture, Chiang aimed to bring Mongolia back into China's fold. Unfortunately, Mongolia was already under Soviet influence and presence. Moreover, Chiang faced a bigger challenge. The Chinese Communist Party had risen significantly in power. Temporarily shelving the Mongolian issue, Chiang focused on eradicating the communist faction, recognizing that Mongolia was fortunate in the 20th century. Whenever China aimed for northern expansion, factors compelled them to divert their attention. In the 1930s, when Japan planned to invade Mongolia after invading Manchuria, the Japanese Kwantung Army collided with the Red Army at the Battle of Khalkhin Gol, leading to their total defeat. Subsequently, the Soviet-Japanese Neutrality Pact was signed. World War II concluded in 1945, and although China was considered a victor, they couldn't liberate themselves from Japan without the help of the Soviet Red Army and the U.S. military. China had to conform to the agreements between the U.S. and the Soviet Union, leading to the return of the territories occupied by Japan. The condition was to maintain the facade of Mongolian independence while recognizing the autonomy of Xinjiang and Tibet, yet this was merely nominal, something that Chiang Kai-shek would eventually relinquish. In 1949, The Chinese Communist Party emerged victorious in the Chinese Civil War, leading to the establishment of the People's Republic of China. However, similar to Chiang Kai-shek, Mao Zedong's ambitions remained unchanged, and the aggressive nature of the Han Chinese persisted, a fact not lost on Mongolia. Their leader at the time, Marshal Khorlugin Choibalsan, informed the General Secretary of the Mongolian People's Party, Yumjagin Tsedenbal, that China's ambitions would never change. Yet, for the sake of diplomatic protocol, they would send congratulatory messages. This intuition was confirmed just a few years later by the late 1950s, as the fears came true. In their relationship with Mongolia, China began displaying peculiar actions. Contrary to conventional military buildup at the border, they started erecting statues. The Chinese leveraged the Mongols' pride. In the early 1950s, they energetically constructed the mausoleum of Genghis Khan in Inner Mongolia, where he passed away. At this time, China was facing shortages, relying on Soviet aid for food, yet they allocated significant funds to build the mausoleum, aimed at influencing the Mongol people. This was the same strategy the Qing dynasty had used to pacify the Mongols. Now, the Chinese Communist Party was employing it again, although the intentions were glaringly clear. Despite this, General Secretary Tsedenbal wanted to make one final attempt. In 1960, China's second-in-command, Zhou Enlai, visited Mongolia with a cryptic statement that Tsedenbal saw through. When the Qing dynasty imposed dominion over Mongolia, leaving the Mongol populace unarmed, the Qing court strategically transformed the Karakoram incident into a Buddhist center. Zhou Enlai responded, "Yes, during that time, the Qing dynasty consistently implemented this policy everywhere." Tsedenbal's implications couldn't have been clearer. It referred to the Han Chinese's assimilation efforts, a narrative that had been told for 1,000 years. Thus, Mongolia's journey towards assimilation officially began. So, what did Mongolia do to escape this precarious situation? The length of the video has ended. Please look forward to the next video. Thank you.